Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about using a library resource for indie publishing with Ingram Spark. My name is Lauren Charles, and I'll be your moderator today. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We wanted to let you know that if at any point you have any questions, please use the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. Also, to the left of your screen, you'll see a slide deck button, and that is what you can use if you want a printable version of the presentation today that you can use at future times and print on and take notes. So any way that can be used as a future resource, we just want to make sure that that's available to you. I also want to let you know that the presentation will be fully recorded, so if you have to leave early or if you want to share it with colleagues at a later time, just use the link that you used to sign up today, and you can see this account for the next about 6 months, and we'll also send it out to you so you have it for easy access. We will also be live tweeting today's event. We would highly encourage that you join us. Make sure to just tag us at IngramSpark. You can also use the hashtag SparkSessions and then anything else that you think is appropriate with the topic. We just want to see an active conversation, and the more the merrier. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Robin Cutler and Joyce Skokut, who will be leading this presentation today.
Thanks, Lauren. Hey, everyone, this is Robin. Joyce, you want to say hello so everyone gets to know your voice?
Hello, everyone. This is Joyce Skokut.
So this is Robin again. I am the manager of the Ingram Spark program, and I'm happy today to kind of share with you this program as a resource for your library. Next slide. So just to give you a little history on Ingram Spark, Ingram has always, well not always, but in the last 15, 20 years, had a print-on-demand company called Lightning Source, and you may have heard of Lightning Source before. And Lightning Source was used by a lot of major publishers, and a lot of indie publishers also used the platform, but we didn't really make it that easy for them to use it. So we decided a couple of years ago to put our print-on-demand technology married together with our ebook distribution platform, and then make all of Ingram's distribution available specifically for independent publishers. And so we launched Ingram Spark just about 2 years ago. So this is a new platform that Ingram has, and a service that Ingram has. So Ingram Spark is designed to be an easy platform where our customers can upload both titles that could be printed and then also ebook titles, and together those titles can be distributed to all of Ingram's distribution network. We've made this platform very easy to use, and also at a low cost of just $49 to set up a title. And on top of that, what you get with Ingram Spark is global distribution, which is something we'll be talking a little bit more about later in the presentation. So what does this mean for libraries, and what can they do with Ingram Spark? So the number one thing that I think will be of interest to you as a librarian is you can refer your patrons that are interested in self-publishing to Ingram Spark as a tool that they can use to get their book printed if they want to do a print book, and also distribute it out to all of Ingram's distribution. So that's no small thing. I know that as librarians, you are often getting asked by your patrons, where can you go to get a book published? So you can now refer them to Ingram Spark. Another thing that you can do with Ingram Spark is to start your own publishing program under the library's imprint. And we've worked previously with many, especially academic libraries, who have done exactly that. The big ones that come to mind that I specifically have worked with are Cornell, the University of Michigan, and the British Library. And I was able to work with them to take some of their public domain content, some of their special collections, and then brand that content under the university's imprint, and then make that content available. And then the other thing you can do that we're going to be talking to you a little bit more in depth here is you can use IngramSpark to publish your own original works. And as a case study, we're going to be talking to you about one particular library that has done exactly that in terms of raising funds for their library, the Williamson County Library. But before we jump into that, Joyce, do you want to take a moment here and bring us all up to speed on exactly what the services are that Ingram offers for our library customers?
Sure. Thank you, Robin. I'd be glad to do that. So as mentioned, Joyce Skoket, I'm the Director of Collection Development at Ingram Library Services. And Ingram Library Services is a full-service library vendor. We provide collection development support, order fulfillment, and all the shelf-ready services and project management services that you would expect from a traditional library wholesaler. And in fact, it was one of those customer relationships that led to the case study Robin mentioned with Williamson County Public Library.
Yeah, so let's just jump into that, Joyce. Let's talk to them specifically about some of the books that that Williamson County Library do. So let's first answer the question, and Joyce, you're the perfect person to answer this. Why would a library spend their time self-publishing a book?
There were a number of factors that drove this. One was that the library, like many, viewed authors as a problem because they had would-be authors coming into the library asking for help that they weren't equipped to provide, asking for advice that they weren't equipped to give, and just looking, why will you put my book on your shelf? Will you help me get it published? And I know every library and every bookstore struggles with that to some extent. Another reason is the library, of course, like all libraries, want to promote usage and drive patrons in the door. So they had been talking with a local park called Academy Park nearby about a joint project they could do to promote both the library and the park at the same time. And those two things were really the big impetus behind the first book that they undertook.
And that's Bucky and Bonnie's Library Adventure. So let's just kind of give the background on exactly what this book is and how the library created this, Joyce.
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. So Ingram Library Services takes a very consultative approach with our customers, trying to understand their workflows and pain points and problems, and it was one of those conversations with Dolores Greenwald, the director of Williamson County Library, that led to all of this unfolding. Dolores was talking about needing to spend more time on social media, more time on events in the library, and she was wondering how she could free up her staff and convince them to do some things that were different than they had traditionally done. And we had a long conversation about that, and in the mix of that, she was asking what's new at Ingram Library. And so I was telling her about all the services we provide for libraries and the ways we could streamline her staff's workflow to free them up. Then I also mentioned Ingram Spark, which was pretty new at the time. And Dolores was really intrigued by that, and she shared with me the thoughts she had about working with the park to promote the library and the park. And she pursued Ingram Spark. She did a lot of motivating and cajoling with her team to convince them to give up some of the collection development and technical services they had been doing, and to instead learn InDesign publishing software and to create a book. And so Bucky and Bonnie are two local miniature horses who are kind of famous, and they actually brought them into the library for a photo shoot. The horses were at the library for the book launch and for several subsequent events. And the team at the library did all of the layout.
I love the story about Bucky and Bonnie and the librarians actually creating a book and a story around, using these little horses to engage with children about teaching them about, the value of a library in a community and how to use a library. And I love that the book launch event that they had in the library, they had these little horses there, and to the delight of parents and children. And the horses actually signed the books, like with their little stamp and their hoof, and it's just the coolest story ever, I think.
It is. It's been a wild success by any measure, and it wasn't very long before the Friends of the Library, who is the benefactor for sales of the book, was definitely very much in the black on book sales.
Yeah. So and they've done several printings of the book, and something that they use for multiple events. This is a great quote here. This is a great quote here that Dolores has given us, and kind of tells the story about, how this book and the self-publishing that they're doing within the library has benefited the library.
It is a great quote,
this.
And yeah, we do love this, and the team actually ended up finding it fun, and they're now looking forward to writing books and creating content and doing layout. You can see on the next slide that we have up, they held a launch party. Dolores Greenwald won an award for the book. She's also gotten a terrific amount of press, and we'll show you a few of those clips later, and all of that press has been really wonderful publicity for the library.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. So besides the publicity, what do you think the other unexpected benefits that the library team there has expressed?
Every library is looking to put on events and do things that will bring patrons in the door. And so now this library, having learned the book publishing software and learned how to upload the book through Spark and to get it published, they're confident enough to hold author workshops. And in fact, not only do they hold author workshops, they have a contest and they give away a prize quarterly, paying the Spark subscription for the winner. They've got seemingly no end to the entries, and the workshops are extraordinarily well attended. And her team is engaged in a way that they hadn't been before, both with social media and with content creation. And again, as mentioned, the publicity for the library in a number of places, including the Library Journal and local papers. And
well, what's interesting about that, Joyce? Yeah, I was just going to say what's interesting about the writer contest that they do. Part of their workshops are that they actually educate these writers about the publishing process and about publishing in general. And it's been and the authors that have uploaded those sort of winning books into IngramSpark, those titles are actually doing quite well as well.
They are. They're now the community of would-be authors and indie authors are excited and engaged with the library, and that audience went from being a problem to being an opportunity to hold events, and the library is uniquely equipped to do workshops that they would never have been able to do had they not had hands-on experience. And to have exposure in Library Journal and other places has really been terrific for the library. You can see the Tennessean, our local paper, picked up a story about it.
And what we love at Ingram and at IngramSpark is that the library is helping to educate writers so that they're not coming to us without any idea about the publishing business. And the library is just providing a huge educational program for them that just really helps us all and streamlines the whole process. So how does this help the library serve their patrons? I think you touched on this in some of your comments about.
We did touch on this. If you think about libraries of even 8 or 10 years ago, they weren't worried about social media. They weren't tweeting. They didn't have a Facebook page. There weren't maker spaces. They may have had a story time. They certainly didn't have the events around technology like they do now after Christmas when everyone gets a new phone or tablet and comes in to ask the library for help. So the library staff, with really no additional staff members, are now suddenly tasked with all of these additional things and continuing the story time and managing everything else and buying books. So anything that we can do to aid that and help them make that process easy and to give them tools that they can pass along have been just incredibly successful and much appreciated.
And it looks like a good time in the library, like a lot of energy and a lot of activity going on within the library itself.
There in many libraries. If you haven't looked, I would suggest going to their websites of your local library. You would be amazed at the amount of programming happening in many libraries today and the events.
So how did the library make money, and who profited, like in the case of Williamson County Library, from the book sales that they have had?
The Friends of the Library is the beneficiary of book sales, and they have used some of that money to do some other things to promote the library and the park system locally in the area, which has been great for both.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. So let's dig into here, like some specifics about why use IngramSpark, so that you feel comfortable in talking to your patrons exactly how this program works.
Robin, one of the things that Williamson County was most excited about was what you see on the screen now. And can you talk a little bit about what happens after a book is submitted to IngramSpark and where it can be purchased and how?
Yeah, so a book that is set up in IngramSpark, like I said previously, benefits from Ingram distribution. And Ingram's distribution currently is about 39,000 retail and library partners around the world. And when I say 39,000, just one of those partners is Amazon. So that gives you the breadth, especially in retail, the breadth of Ingram's reach. So this shows you the sort of screenshots and the detail pages on Barnes & Noble of what the Bucky and Bonnie book look like, on Amazon, and then on iPage. So when a book is uploaded into our system, it just automatically goes into the Ingram catalog and then feeds out to all of these other partners. So, yeah, everybody's always excited, obviously, to see their book, one that they've worked really hard on, to actually filter out into, all these other sites. And this slide gives you a really good example of how that works.
So, Robin, the next slide that we have just kind of walks through a high level of how it works. I'm for an independent publisher who is thinking about publishing a book, doesn't have a lot of money to spend. Actually, kind of back to the why use IngramSpark, can you talk a little bit about that? I know a lot of people think about getting their book published and are put off by concerns about an investment or managing inventory or where to get the book printed. So how does IngramSpark help with that?
So let me just walk through just kind of the basics, and then we'll go into a little bit more discussion about print on demand in general and the cost involved. So IngramSpark is fairly simple to create an account, and So once, a customer like the Williamson County Library, so when they created their book, they edited it, they laid it out in InDesign, as Joyce said, and then for the print part, they actually created PDFs, and we have file creation guide and other resources to kind of help a customer figure out and to guide them into actually creating their digital files. So you would have final digital files of your book. For print, you would have PDFs. You have 2 PDFs, one of the interior and a separate one for the cover, and we can help people, figure that out. And then on the ebook side, if you want to make an ebook available, you can, and we would need an EPUB of the interior, an EPUB file of the interior, and a JPEG of the cover. So when you're setting up your book in IngramSpark, there are about 6 easy screens. You provide the metadata on the book, which includes, the basic metadata, title, a description of the book. You would provide BISAC codes so that the book can be discovered. An ISBN. So for any book that's put into distribution, we would need an ISBN and a different ISBN or a separate ISBN for every format of the book. So a print book would have one ISBN, an ebook would have a different ISBN, and a hardcover could have a separate ISBN. You can purchase an ISBN on a single title when you're setting up a book in Spark. Probably the better way to go is to go to Bowker and buy a block of ISBNs and use those if you're setting up books for the library, or if you're even referring a patron. Bowker, I think, sells blocks in a block of 10 ISBNs, and that's the sort of cheapest way to go if you think you need more than one ISBN. And then you would also provide a list price on your book. You would offer a discount, and we can talk more offline if you have questions about discount and returnability. I'm happy to answer any questions about, what's advantageous there. When you're setting up a book in Spark, we do have some guidance there about, the best discount in terms of a trade discount for the market and returnability. And then at the end of that, setting up the metadata, you would upload your files. You would get an e-proof of the book that you set up, and you would approve that. And then if you want to place a book into distribution like they did at Williamson County Library, you would turn that on. But you don't have to. If you want to use us just to print books, you can just not turn on distribution and just order print copies. And then at the end of all of that, for books that are placed into distribution and are available to Ingram's retail partners, you actually get paid for the sale of those books. So that's kind of it from the beginning to the end of how the process works. So now I want to talk a little bit about print on demand and why print on demand is a good option for patrons and also for you if you intend to start your own publishing program. So basically, you pay the $49 to set up your book, and that makes the book available to the market. And then if you don't know the demand on a book, that's basically your upfront cost of uploading that book into the system. With print on demand, you don't have any inventory that you have to manage, especially in a library, and even for an individual, having to figure out where you're going to store inventory, how you're going to warehouse that, and then there's cost associated with inventory management and warehousing. With print on demand, you don't have those costs to have to bear. And also you don't have to actually, pack any orders. You can place orders within the IngramSpark portal, and we actually will ship orders out directly to your customer and just in those cases, just charge you for printing and shipping. And probably one of the most important things about print on demand, especially for a new publisher, is, oftentimes there will be errors in a book. You don't find these until after you've printed. If you have inventory and you find an error, like, somewhere in the book, and you want to make that change, then you're kind of stuck on the inventory. So print on demand allows you to easily make changes to the file and correct anything that's outdated. So that's my big sort of run through on why print on demand makes sense as a publishing strategy.
Robin, I know a lot of people love the fact that it's eco-friendly as well. A book is only printed when it's sold.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's no inventory sitting anywhere. There's actually a buying customer that has prompted, that the actual printing of that book.
Right, and if a Ingram Spark user chooses not to sell the book themselves, orders will just still be filled from Ingram.
That's right. Yep.
So, and they just collect their check and go on their way.
Yeah,
right?
you don't have to do anything. Just turn on distribution, and when we get orders from Amazon or for Barnes & Noble or from other libraries, we actually print the book, and you don't have to do anything. You just get a check in the mail, or check actually to your account. So what's next for Williamson County Library? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, they've already published their second book, and you can see a little bit of some of the images here, the front and back cover, and from the In the Library event. They had a lot of children coming to the library who were learning about the Civil War, who were looking for age-appropriate reading material and to do research for papers and things for school. And the library recognized that there really weren't a lot of books for kids, maybe 4th to 8th grade. So that's how they decided that their second project would be the Battle of Franklin book, Bullets and Bayonets, about the Civil War. And they took advantage of a couple things. The fact that one of their library staff had previously been a docent at a local museum. Librarians are fabulous at research, and they had some community members that they were able to engage as contributors on this book who were avid Civil War historians. So it was a win-win all around, and it engaged a lot of community members. It also happened to coincide with the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. And they did a book launch party at the library, and they not sure if you can see. Oh, nope, can't see the invitation. They did a book launch at the library, and they did events, Civil War reenactment. They did events at some parks and some other places. And the really exciting part about this is, we've kind of created a monster a little bit, because their staff now, they're chomping at the bit to do their next book. And the great thing is they had classroom adoption at some local schools in Tennessee, public and private schools. And it wasn't long before they sold over 200 copies of the book in both paperback and hardcover. So
yeah, that's a fantastic story. And they did a wonderful, and it's too bad we can't show the interior of this book, but a wonderful job of laying out the book, of all the research, as you mentioned, with all the different artifacts, particular to the Battle of Franklin, and it's just a never-ending resource that I think this library in particular, but not only this library, but anybody that's interested, and it's a huge number of people interested in Civil War memorabilia. This book particularly served an issue with providing even to travelers coming to Franklin and viewing the battlefield. They now have a book that they can actually sell, like at some of these sites. And so this has been a really great book.
It has been, Robin, and it was so beautifully done. Not to diminish anything about Bucky and Bonnie, but Bucky and Bonnie was a first effort, and Bullets and Bayonets was very clearly, you could tell that they had developed a level of expertise in the way the book was laid out and put together, and it's incredibly professional looking and extremely informative. If you ever get a chance to look at it, I would advise you to take that opportunity and think about how your library, the local history and the local notable places and things and events in your area, and how could you embark on a similar project and engage.
Yeah, every community.
Staff in the community.
Yeah, every community has something special like this, right? So, and Franklin's a tiny little town. It is a pretty famous battlefield, at least in the South, there, and has quite a history. So, this is just a great tribute, not only to the community that the library was able to provide, but to the librarians themselves that they were able to pull this off. It is really, really well done, first class. So, hats off to you, Joyce, and getting them started with this.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, I would say the same back to you, Robin, for handling them with TLC and making it easy. And I'd like to just point out for fun, Dolores is in the bottom right photo. She is the one wearing the pilgrim-looking hat.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Yeah, she's a dynamo. I love her. Really, really fantastic person. Great leadership. So, I know that, Lauren, do you have any questions that have come in from any of our participants?
We do have some questions. Okay, so the first one, I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but we've had a couple questions about the formats that are available and how that works and selecting them and what works best. And obviously that'll be kind of a library by library basis, but if you guys can just talk a little bit about that and what you would recommend and the options available.
Yeah, so when you're creating your books and laying them out, there's a couple of different, and I'll be happy to, if any library wants anything specific about which vendors they can use to help with this, just to kind of launch. Or as Williamson County Library did, where they actually, learned to use InDesign, which is Adobe's, book layout software. So that now that they know how to use InDesign, they can actually create, as many books as they want. But if you don't have that kind of resource in your library, or if you're not ready to use InDesign, then there's a couple of vendors we can point you to that can help you with the layout of your book. But once you have your book sort of laid out, as I said before, for print. And on the print side, what IngramSpark offers is both hardcover and paperback in a wide variety of trim sizes. We also, believe it or not, can offer color printing on the interior, and we have a couple of different options on the color printing. We have one that's called Premium Color. That's if you want to do like a coffee table type book, that's available to you. And then another option called Standard Color. That's just a little bit more expensive than a black and white interior. All of our print, either a hardcover or a paperback book, you get a 4-color cover with that. You can either have a glossy cover or a matte cover. And there's a couple of different options on your choices of paper, whether white paper or cream color paper. So you have a wide variety of options. So on the formats, you would have the choices of paperback, hardcover, or an e-book. Did that answer the question, Lauren?
Yes, I think so.
Robin, I have a question.
Okay.
Can a hardback book have a dust jacket?
Yeah, so even as in our print on demand, model, you can have a hardcover with sort of a cloth cover, stamp cover on the spine with a dust jacket. And I know that's really important for a lot of librarians. I know in the case of the Battle of Franklin book, Dolores opted for both a paperback and a hardcover. And that gives you, the buyers of your content, a couple of different choices, which is really, really important. And then on the E side, all you need is an e-book, an EPUB file for the interior and a JPEG file for the cover. For people that are really looking to kind of jump into this, if you go to www.IngramSpark.com, under Help, there is a file creation guide that can help, and some other help tools there that can help you. And up here on the screen, any questions that you may have, feel free to reach out to me at robin.cutler@ingramcontent.com, and I'm happy to help you as you get started with your own publishing. Or, if you have a patron that needs that you would feel more comfortable passing off directly to us, we're happy to help them.
Perfect. I have a couple more questions coming in. So one from John is, how do you match retail price and or discount percentage to the market? Are there any guidelines you would recommend?
So in Ingram Spark, on a print book, you have the option of, when you're setting up your book, setting up a discount between 30 and 55%. As far as trade goes, the trade market, which is selling into bookstores, the standard wholesale trade discount is 55%. And we recommend, if you really think bookstores are a good market for your book, to select that as a discount. In terms of returnability, there are 3 different options of returnability. It's non-returnable. That means that your book would not be listed in iPage as being returnable. That may disadvantage your book. A lot of booksellers, especially like Barnes & Noble, typically, will not order unless the book is returnable. So on the returnable side, you have an option of setting up as return and deliver. What that means is that when we get the book back from the store, we will actually send it back to you, but we will charge you like a $2 fee to do that. Or you can select return and destroy, and in that case, the book is made and listed as returnable, but you're not charged that $2 fee. So it depends on the cost of your book, how much it costs to print. The other thing I want to point out, too, is on the Ingram Spark site, under both the Help and under Cost and Revenue tab, if you go to the site, there are calculator tools there that you can plug in the trim size, number of pages, whether it's color or not, and figure out exactly what your unit cost to print is. So that's a really handy tool as well.
Perfect. Okay, just a couple more. One, and I know we touched on this earlier, but what are some of the biggest challenges a library can face when setting up a publishing program?
Joyce, you want to take that one to start?
Yeah, I think it's just I'd say prior to Ingram Spark, it's trying to figure out how you're going to actually go from the concept or the finished product to something you can hold in your hands and sell and or people can read. I'd say Ingram Spark is definitely a key tool in making that much easier. Things that we talked about, like all of those other things the staff spends their time on, there really isn't anything more important in a library than circulation numbers. And so anything that the staff can do to drive patrons in the door and make the library really a relevant and integral part of the community is key. So, in Dolores' case, she would tell you that it wasn't always an easy road and that it took, did take some arm twisting and fleeting, but again, as mentioned before, in a way, they sort of created a little monster now, and it's been, it's taken on a life of its own. So I guess I'd say getting started may be hard, and the staff may be daunted, but a lot of encouragement will go a long way.
Yeah, and even in the case of working with a large library like Cornell, they had issues with some of their public domain content that they wanted to, republish as far as digitizing that content. So don't let that stop you. There are a lot of vendors that can help you if you have the resources within the library to digitize. It's great, but don't let that stop you, because there's a lot of places that can help you sort of digitize your files themselves. And once you have the digital files, you're kind of good to go. But as you were saying, Joyce, the creation of content is not something that's that easy to do. Publishers do this all day long, but they will tell you that it's always a challenge. Every book is it's kind of like a child. It's unique, and it requires a lot of investment to bring that to fruition. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Having passion for the end product is really paramount, like Dolores had and her staff had. And then, as you said, now a challenge is, how do you rein all of this in and start, creating content that's going to have the biggest benefit and the bang, the bang to the bottom line.
Right. And I'm not a member of our sales team, as mentioned. I'm in collection development, but I will say here that one of the key things that made the difference was Dolores convincing her team to rely some more on the vendor, and in this case, Ingram Services in particular, working more closely with us and leveraging some of the tools and services that we provide, both collection development and technical services, is what enabled her staff to free up their time that allowed them to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we loved working with them. It was a great experience, and continues to be a great experience all the way around.
It does, and her staff is funny. At every opportunity when they speak about the book, they are quick to point out very early on, I'd never written before, I'm not an author, I'm not a publisher, but they're all sort of giddy with excitement about how things have turned out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great
okay,
story.
We have one more question. We have some libraries who are interested, and so they want to know, they're in a couple different ways, but can we provide any materials either for their staff about Ingram Spark or any patrons who come in looking to be an indie publisher?
Yeah, we have, for Ingram Spark, we have some collateral we can provide you that you can, have there to, provide to any patron. If you're doing any kind of programming within your library, especially for writers or writer groups, let us know and we can help partner with you in some of that programming. I'm available that you could Skype in, as part of a webinar or part of a workshop and talk specifically about, the Ingram Spark piece. We're really happy to do that.
Perfect. Okay. I think that will be it for us today. But as we mentioned earlier before, if later on you're watching this webinar and you have some other questions, please feel free. You can email us. You have Robin's email here. You can also continue to send them in through the webinar platform, and we will still receive those emails, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you have any other comments or anything else like that, we will be in touch. So we hope you guys have a great week, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Joyce.